welcome to This Week in Baseball for the week of February 29th. This is an episode that will only come out once every 4 years. The February 29th episode. So we had some stuff happening this week. Scott Boras clients are finally signing, I think. One of them at least. Cody Bellinger goes back to the Cubs for 3 years, $80 million with opt-outs after each year, that if he doesn't opt out, then he gets a bonus, I think.
No bonus.
Well, I thought I saw something that he's getting 27 and a half. If he doesn't opt out, it goes to 30. And then the next year it goes to 35.
You heard all wrong information. So year one, it's 30 million. Year two, it's 30 million. Year three, it's 20 million. With opt-outs after each of the years.
What did I see?
The wrong thing, clearly.
Well, clearly. I'm glad you're here to set me straight.
Yeah, so the Cubs offseason kind of felt a little incomplete. We were kind of waiting for this shoe to drop because they hadn't made a whole lot of other moves. And obviously, Bellinger at the beginning of this offseason was not looking to sign a 3-year, $80 million deal. He was looking for probably a 6 or 7-year deal close to $200 million. And the Cubs kind of waited him out, and they're essentially, with the opt-outs as part of the contract, it's almost like they are doing the exact same thing that they did this past year, where they gave him the 1-year deal. This is essentially a 1-year deal with the major raise that he's making $30 million in the year. If he has a great year, there's no question about it, he's going to opt out, because all he's got to do is beat 2 years and $50 million on the open market, which seems pretty easy for a 28-year-old coming off an amazing year. If things go poorly, then the Cubs, I guess, get stuck with another year of Bellinger at 30 million, but like that seems like a extremely low risk that the Cubs are actually taking there, because they're not saddled with the guy that has had such inconsistent performance for like a 7 or 8 year deal or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if you're stuck with him for 2 years, it's a lot of money. But this is the club
But that's all it is.
This is a club that can handle that. So it doesn't really matter. They're gonna put the best lineup on the field that they can, and if there's 25 mil AAV for 2 years that is only worth like 10 to 15, so be it.
Yeah. I mean, the player Bellinger himself, why did he have to settle for this deal? It's absolutely because no one knew what they were getting with this guy, because he's been the worst player in baseball in 21 and 22. Then he rebounded in a big way last year, where he hit over 300, hit 26 home runs. I mean, it was a great season, and he showed some interesting improvements in his two-strike approach, where he basically was impossible to strike out when he got to 2 strikes, which was bizarre after striking out so much in the prior years.
And he was literally impossible to strike out before he got to 2 strikes.
Yeah, no, but the interesting tidbit that I saw was that he was the best. He had like the best batting average with 2 strikes after Luis Arias in the entire league. So shows the massive change that he made to his approach. The one thing that he kind of sacrificed was his hard hit numbers. Like, they were bottom tier. They were like 20th percentile in average exit velocity, and he clearly made that trade-off, and it paid off in a big way this past year. But just like long term, I don't know if that's something that you can bank on him doing year after year, is like being really good with 2 strikes. People generally aren't that good with 2 strikes, and being able to keep it up without premium batted ball quality. But I don't know, like the other part of it is really good defense and really good base running. He's going to be a playable player no matter what he does. He's good enough that it doesn't matter if his hitting drops down a little bit.
Yeah, so he had more home runs last year than he's had in any year since his 2019 juice ball season of 47 homers. In fact, other than the juice ball season, he hadn't hit 26 since his rookie season in 2017. So even sacrificing some of that hard hit, like he was still able to do damage and strike
Absolutely,
out
yeah.
a lot less. And so I would much rather have that Cody Bellinger long term than the Cody Bellinger that we saw in 21, 22, and even 2020 in that shortened season. He was not good.
Yeah.
Like it honestly, 2020 is where it all fell off the wagon for him. I wonder if that season just really got in his head and that's what caused all this stuff. But anyway, we're well past that
It's
now.
that. No, it's that plus doing this with Kike Hernandez in the NLCS that like destroyed his shoulder.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about
That's where
that.
things started really going bad for him.
But, but yeah, but he put up a stellar season last year. 4 WAR, 26 homers, 307 average. Clearly, he's had that talent the whole time. I mean, that's what he was doing back in 2019. Like, we knew he could do it. It was just one of those that we don't know year to year what we're getting with him. And so the 6-year, 200 million ask that Scott Boras had said publicly early in the offseason, I did not think he was going to get it. Turns out I was right, and I think so was everyone else because I don't think I was the only one to have that thought.
I definitely thought he was going to get it because usually Boris gets what he wants. So that's the other interesting part is that usually Boris clients don't settle for contracts, and this feels like he kind of did.
I, I think that's a longer topic in general with Scott Boras. I don't think clubs are bowing down to him anymore. Like
Yeah.
Snell and Monty are still out there. Those guys should 100% be on teams already. They're really good pitchers. But teams are not willing to meet the asking price because they don't think they're worth it. So we'll see. But yeah, I like that move for the Cubs a lot. I mean, I'm surprised that no one else was willing to do that same thing. Maybe teams were, but if he did it, he wanted to do it back in Chicago because that's where he
Yeah,
had
absolutely.
success. And he's
Yeah, they're the
comfortable
team
there.
that helped
So,
him with. He knows the hitting coach, and it helped him. So makes sense if he's comfortable there. Why not sign back?
yeah. Next up, Mitch Keller. Pittsburgh Pirates actually shelled out a contract to a goodish young player. Mitch Keller got 5 year, $77 million extension. He is, I think, undisputably the ace of the Pirates, right?
Absolutely, absolutely the ace.
He started out the season last year phenomenally. I think the second half was maybe not quite as good, if I remember right.
It was pretty rough, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pulling up his splits now, but there we go. Yeah, so in the first half last year, 117 innings pitched, a 3.31 ERA. Second half, 77 innings pitched, a 5.59 ERA. So Mitch Keller showed the talent that he's had this entire time and that we were hoping he would be able to reach and unlock in the first half. After that, I don't know if it was arm fatigue or if his mechanics were falling off or what, but they clearly see that talent is there. He could do what he was expected to do the first couple years in the majors. And so they're out here and now bringing up the rest of their prospects that we're actually going to talk about in the NL Central preview on Monday. They're looking to him to kind of be the beginning of that core and be around for a while, lead that rotation ahead of what they're expecting to be Paul Skeens and Quinn Priester and fill in some spots here in the next couple of years. But right now they're paying him for his success of last year. And he's got a significant pay raise because he was still ARB eligible for a couple of years, I think.
Definitely, yeah. He definitely would have had a couple more years before free agency, but he gets the guaranteed money. And I think if you even look at like a granular game by game, it was basically he had 5 really terrible starts in the second half. It wasn't even like all of the second half. He just had these like 5 bad starts, and they were really bad. They were like 5 or 7 runs in each of those starts. If you take those out, obviously you can't do that for the season long stats, but they'd look a lot better. And I think with another year under his belt, I think Mitch Keller can put together like a full wire to wire uh, good season. I don't think he's a true ace, but I think he's like pretty good.
So
He's
actually, what I'm seeing is that when he got into trouble, they did not pull him. They said you're
absolutely,
going
yeah,
5 no matter what. You're eating innings because yeah, he had 5 games giving up 8 runs, a game giving up 7, and a game giving up 6. They're all after uh July 18th.
yeah.
He actually had 2 of them back to back, an 8-run and a 6-run back to back. That they made him go 6 and made him go 5. Like, I feel like at that point, that's on the manager to pull you. Like, that's not even like him. Like, if his mechanics were off or something, or he was tipping a pitch and they just left him out there to eat it, like, you can't blame all of that on him.
Yeah, definitely. That's another part of it. They were letting him go deep into these games when usually almost every other pitcher in the league is getting pulled in those same scenarios.
Yeah. So maybe they're paying him all this guaranteed money is like, and I'm sorry.
I don't think Bob Nutting does that, but
He
he
doesn't.
has also now extended 3 core players of this team, so got to give him credit for that. They are all like well, no, I think they're fair. They're fair deals, right? Key Brian Hayes, Brian Reynolds, and now Mitch Keller are all signed for the long term.
What was Brian Reynolds' deal? I don't remember it.
It was like 106 million for 7 or 8 years
Uh,
to buy out.
8-year, 106.75 with a club option. Completely forgot about that one. But yeah, so it's kind of nice to see them actually paying their good players something. But hopefully he could take some more steps forward this year and turn out to be the uh, Garrett Cole or the was it Jameson Tyone, the other one?
Mhm.
But also stay in Pittsburgh. I think that's the key there is he needs to do it
Yeah.
in Pittsburgh. Whereas those guys
No,
got good
that's
after they
yeah,
left.
and also Tyler Glass now
Glass now, that's
is
the
the
one I
other
was
one
trying to
I
think.
think of.
Yeah. I'm gonna
But
say it
yeah,
was
no,
someone
it's
better than
like
Tyone. I knew it.
yeah, they have to do this because the Pirates, as they currently do business, will never go out and sign a big free agent. So they have to sign their own players to extensions as the only way to keep them. And I'm glad they're doing it with a legitimately solid player of their team. They kept him.
Yeah. So spring training games have finally started. And it's really nice seeing all of these like lineup cards come across my phone. It reminds me that, you know, good things are coming. Uh, but the question is, do we actually care about spring training? Like, as far as like, we're seeing guys throw pitches they haven't thrown before. We're seeing guys that are seemingly dominating. Does that mean anything? Generally, I would
Yeah.
say no. But at the same time, maybe. Like, it's the first time we got to see Yoshinobu Yamamoto today. And the dude was disgusting. He threw 19 pitches, 15 of them for strikes, 3 strikeouts, 2 innings pitched. His splitter was nasty. It was beautiful. So like, yeah, I kind of care about spring training because I got to see that for the first time.
Yeah.
But
Shohei
also,
hit a homer in his first game. I mean, it was just fun to have baseball back, but it's it's a it's a big question and it doesn't have a simple answer, but I think a lot of stuff in spring training matters. It matters that people are throwing new pitches, people are throwing harder than before, people are healthy or people are unhealthy. Those things all matter, but like from a results perspective, like the games clearly don't matter. And and even the stats don't matter in my opinion. Like it doesn't matter if someone strikes out everybody in spring training. It doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily go have an amazing season that year. As much as people like to believe that, I think it's easy to draw conclusions off the small samples of spring, and they're not conditions that represent like what regular season baseball is. So
Yeah.
don't
Well,
read
I
into the
mean,
stats
last
is
year
what I
the
would say.
Cardinals won the Grapefruit League and were fifth in the division. So the curse of the Grapefruit League victor. Um, but yeah, but like it's interesting to me because like you see some of these young guys that come up and they like hit really well in spring, and that can make or break a roster spot for somebody. But we also don't care about the results. But if the results aren't there for some of these guys in spring, they're not going to make the team. So
No,
it's
that's a great point, and I think we're going away from that. I think we're getting to the point where the performance in spring is not mattering as much for making those roster decisions because there's so much other data available to the teams. They know like how the player they know all the like the granular data from the minor leagues from the past year, or even the biometric stuff that they've got on the players
yeah,
in spring training, not necessarily like result based.
but at the same time, like even if you're looking at guys who played in the Arizona Fall League or played in some of these winter leagues and stuff, like they've now had a couple months to sit. So like yes, they have these results in the minors and they have all the ability, but like spring kind of gives you the idea on if they're back in the swing of it yet, or if you need to start them in the minors just to get their groove going and then bring them up. So it's like it still matters to a point, even though there's a whole bunch of other things that go into that decision. I mean, putting your number one prospect on the opening day roster kind of seems like a no brainer if they're close to ready, because that can potentially get you a draft pick down the line. But with some of these other guys, like a Victor Scott, for example, like if he wants any shot of making the Cardinals major league roster, he's got to have an amazing spring with the bat, showing that he still has the contact. He can maybe get a little bit of pop and that his defense is there. And then maybe he'll get the fourth roster spot. I don't think they're going to do that because like they're going to want him to be playing. So they're not going to put him in the fourth roster spot. But the point still stands. Like they saw what he did last year and he was really good in the fall league in the end of the year. But spring still matters for those situations.
Well, yeah, it does, but I'm thinking of the Jordan Walker situation last year. He had an insane start to spring training, right? Like 2 weeks of being like the best player in all of Major League Baseball and minor leagues, or every minor leagues, major leagues, all spring training. He had like the best numbers of anyone, and then everyone was like, "Oh yeah, he's a shoe in to make the team," which he did out of spring training, but people totally forgot about the bad 2 weeks that he had at the end of spring training. And then he didn't last long on the roster to the point where he's demoted. So it's like that decision was made based off the stats. Maybe he wasn't ready, It was like
I
a
mean, uh, I think his situation was a little bit different because, like, I mean, he started the year, he wasn't getting the power, but the contact was there. Like, he had a 12-game hit streak to start his career. Like, that's not something you just luck into necessarily. Like, there's clearly talent there, and you're clearly succeeding in some aspects, but he wasn't elevating the ball. So they sent him back down to start trying to elevate the ball again. Like, it, I don't know that it was necessarily he wasn't ready. I think it's that he changed his approach, trying to do too much too early, and they sent him back down to be like, dude, just be you, go rake for a little bit here, and then we'll bring you back up. And that's what they did, and that's what he did.
yeah.
And
That's
then
called not being ready, right?
I so yes and no. Like I think you could be ready and then be overwhelmed by the moment to the point where you change something and you just need a reset. Like I, it's hard to explain. I think you can be ready and then change after you got up.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
I know there's
yeah,
there's a
because
lot
it's
of
like
nuance to each situation. It was just one that I was thinking of. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure that the teams care as much in general, but I do think that yes, the performance does matter for some of those like fringe roster spots, especially.
So what about Cole Reagans with 5 strikeouts, hitting 101?
Yeah,
Do we care about that?
that's awesome to see, right? That's crazy. Like, it's like February still, and the guy's throwing 101. Like, where's the ramp up period?
I
Is
was
this
going to
guy
say
just gonna
that the
blow out his
velocity is
arm?
the part that I think is the key there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
is
we're talking
Hunter
about a guy that's had Tommy John surgery and Tommy John revision. Like, I'm scared.
has Hunter Green hit 102 on a splitter?
That he's saving that for a second spring start.
Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, it's exciting. We're getting to see some ball get played, and the thing that bothers me is Major League Baseball said that every game would be available on MLB TV, and they made it sound like that was going to be video feed, which is not the case in the slightest. Because there's been like only 2 Cardinals games that have been televised so far, but they said you can watch every game, so that it made you think that you were going to be able to actually watch it. So I know a lot of people are ticked about that. So it's fun to hear the radio talk about how some of these plays. How are the Cubs doing in spring? Have you guys been hitting homers yet? Because the Cardinals forgot that home runs were a part of the game and have not hit one yet.
To be honest, I have zero clue. I know Christopher Morel hit one in the first game that they played, but I don't really know what's going on.
Maybe it's time to check, because those stats matter, Gautam.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, you got anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. Well, then that is all that we have for you guys for this week in baseball. Make sure to check out the NL Central Division preview next Monday. If you haven't already seen the American League Central Division preview, that came out this past Monday. So go check that out, and we will see you guys back here next week.
If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.